All right, today we're diving into one of the internet's most mysterious, most misunderstood places, the dark web. You know, it's a name that makes you think of hackers and shadowy digital back alleys. But what's really going on there, and how much of what we hear is actually true? Okay, let's get right into it.
So I want to start with this number. Just look at it, 0.01%. It looks like nothing, right? Almost a rounding error. But this tiny, tiny fraction, it's at the absolute heart of our story today. What on earth could it represent?
You guessed it. That's the size of the entire dark web. It makes up just 1/100th of 1% of the internet. And yet, this minuscule slice is home to a criminal economy that pulls in over $1.5 billion a year. So that's the big paradox we're going to unpack. How can something so small have such a massive real-world impact?
To really get our heads around that, we need to zoom out a bit. See, most of us think the internet is just, Google, social media, news sites. But that's not even close. That's just the tip of a giant invisible iceberg.
The internet really has three main layers. First, you've got the surface web. That's everything a search engine can find. Simple enough. Then there's the deep web, and this is the biggest part by far. It's everything behind a password. Your email inbox, your online banking, your Netflix account. It's hidden, yeah, but it's not sketchy. And then at the very bottom, you have the dark web, which is a whole different ballgame. It's specifically built to be anonymous, and you need special software just to get in.
And this chart, wow, it really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? The deep web is just enormous. It's basically the whole thing. The surface web we all use every day is just a fraction of that. And the dark web, it's that little tiny speck. So it's super important. Don't mix up the huge deep web with the tiny dark web. They are not the same thing.
Okay, so how do people even visit this hidden little speck? Well, the main key that unlocks the door is a tool called Tor. That stands for the Onion Router, and it's called that because it wraps your internet connection in multiple layers of encryption, just like an onion. It then bounces your signal all around the world through a network of volunteer computers, which makes you incredibly difficult to trace.
And you might think this is some obscure tool for a handful of tech wizards, but nope. Every single day, more than 3 million people use the Tor network. Clearly, the desire for real privacy online is a pretty big deal.
Now here's where it gets really interesting. Who's actually using it? You'd probably guess it's most popular in countries with intense government censorship, right? But look at this. The United States and Germany are number 1 and 2. This tells us that for most people, Tor is all about privacy, avoiding corporate tracking, or keeping their internet provider from logging their every move, even in a free and open society.
And this right here, this is probably the single biggest myth we have to bust today. The vast majority of people using Tor are just browsing the normal, everyday internet that you and I use. They just want to do it anonymously. Only a tiny fraction are actually using it to go to those special .onion sites that make up the dark web.
Let's put a hard number on that. Look at this. A staggering 97% of all traffic on the Tor network is going to the regular internet. Only 3% is actually heading to dark websites. So the tool itself is overwhelmingly a privacy tool, not a criminal one. But it's inside that little 3% where the dark web gets its dark reputation.
Right. It's in that tiny slice of traffic that we find the dark web you see in the movies. This is where the same powerful anonymity that protects activists and journalists gets twisted and used by criminals to build these incredibly sophisticated online black markets. And as we said before, this hidden economy is a powerhouse. It's estimated to be generating around $1.5 billion in revenue every single year, all fueled by untraceable cryptocurrency and the promise of anonymity.
So what's for sale? Well, pretty much anything you can imagine. Illegal drugs, new kinds of malware, hacking for hire services. But the biggest, most valuable commodity of all, stolen data. By 2022, there were over 15 billion stolen usernames and passwords floating around on the dark web, just waiting for someone to buy them.
So while, not every single site on the dark web is illegal, let's be real, the data shows that most of them are. About 60% of all known dark web sites are involved in some kind of criminal activity. Crime really is the dominant culture there.
But here's the wild part. Don't picture some chaotic Wild West free-for-all. These criminal marketplaces are bizarrely professional. An incredible 92% of them have systems for resolving disputes, kind of like a twisted eBay for illegal goods. And more than 3/4 of them make sellers buy a license to even operate, which can cost thousands of dollars.
It's all about quality control.
And this is where the whole thing stops being some abstract concept and starts getting very, very personal. Because this whole organized criminal economy, it runs on one specific kind of fuel, your personal data. So what's it actually worth to these guys?
Honestly, the prices are just insulting. A US Social Security number, $1. Your credit card details, maybe 10, 20 bucks. A full profile on you, your name, address, date of birth, everything, for less than $100. Your entire digital life is being chopped up and sold off for pocket change.
And make no mistake, this isn't some niche corner of the market. Trading in stolen identities is the main business of the dark web. It is the engine that drives over 65% of everything that happens on these platforms.
And here's the most important point of all. What happens on the dark web does not stay on the dark web. It's the starting point of a cybercrime supply chain that has very real, very damaging consequences for all of us out here in the real world. It works like this. First, your data gets stolen in a breach and put up for sale on a dark web marketplace. Then criminals, about 2/3 of them, buy that data to launch their own attacks. And that leads directly to those massive, costly data breaches we're always hearing about in the news.
And this whole problem is getting worse fast. In just a single year, the number of data breaches posted on these forums jumped by 43%. The supply of stolen data is exploding.
And the end result of that supply chain? The average cost for a company to clean up after a single data breach has now hit a staggering $4.44 million. And that's not some victimless crime. Those costs get passed down to all of us. I mean, the connection is undeniable. The data shows that if a company's employee passwords show up for sale on the dark web, their risk of getting hit with a major cyber attack skyrockets by more than 2.5 times. The threat is direct, it's measurable, and it's predictable.
So we're left with this really fundamental problem. The very same technology that gives life-saving privacy to journalists and activists under oppressive regimes is also the perfect shelter for a multi-billion-dollar criminal empire. Anonymity is a powerful double-edged sword, and the ultimate question for all of us is this: how do we protect its vital, positive uses without enabling all of the undeniable harm it can cause?